Hey everyone, I'm RVRocks, and E3 2021 has now come and gone, and overall, I thought it had a lot of really neat things to show. Many people, myself included, have regarded this year's E3 as worse than E3s of years past, with most companies having little to no things to show. But I overall really enjoyed what they did show. Ex-Bethesda with Replaced, Ubisoft with a new Mario and Rabbids. But overall, unsurprisingly for me, but very surprising for most people, Nintendo kinda took home the trophy this time around, with several announcements that no one was expecting, but were still enjoyed nonetheless. Kazuya and Smash, Advance Wars Reboot Camp, a new proper Metroid game, all of which are, well, pretty big deals. You know, Nintendo doing the ever-classic Nintendo thing of somehow both making the most sense and still managing to be completely out of left field as well. But this time around, there was one thing that I think just about everyone was expecting to see at Nintendo's E3 Direct, and that was the still unnamed Breath of the Wild sequel. Which, color me crazy, but I think that this was probably the most standard and safe Nintendo announcement that we got at the E3 Direct this year. Except for maybe that Mario Party game, but even that one had Birdo, and that's bound to be controversial for some people. Anyways, this trailer has me even more sold on the game than I was before, but it all felt pretty standard. New abilities, some new enemy variations, some new landmarks placed in the existing Hyrule for us to explore. Of course, I am downplaying it a bit, but at the end of the day, this is all more or less what I was expecting to see. Since Breath of the Wild was so wildly different from Zelda previous, any direct sequel probably wouldn't or maybe even couldn't be as earth-shattering. In fact, my biggest takeaway from the trailer was this. Seeing Link and Zelda with new hairstyles was refreshing and a surefire way to show the passage of time, and I am all about those post-time skip designs in other pieces of media. However, there is one caveat with that whole idea, and that is, I don't think that this is Link. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. I believe in these portions of the trailer for the Breath of the Wild sequel, we are actually playing as Ganondorf. That's right, I'm bringing back that left field spunk into a pretty safe trailer. I think that this guy right here is Ganondorf, not Link. And you might be thinking to yourself, RV, that's crazy. Link is clearly going to be playable. You see him right here and you see him in the last trailer pretty prominently. And you're right, this is going to take some explanation. So let me present to you the Ganondorf conspiracy. Early on in Breath of the Wild, you are told this story of the hero who initially sealed the calamity away, and this guy looks to be more what you'd expect Ganondorf to look like, bearing a specifically striking resemblance to the Hyrule Warriors incarnation of the character. But thanks to a handy-dandy game known as Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, we know that these designs aren't exactly meant to be perceived as a one-to-one faithful recreation of a character. I mean, look at Link's model compared to his loading screen art, like Jesus Christ. Now let's look back at that art from the Breath of the Wild cutscene and you begin to see some resemblance. Longer, loose hair, some kind of green tapestry-style cape, the arm holding the sword not being just a normal arm, and if we take into account that his skin is red, that also means he has exposed legs, something that our Ganon Link here definitely aligns with. Taking into account that this outfit looks to be similar to an outfit worn by the Gerudo, the tribe Ganondorf is born into, and in the art over here, he bears red skin. Despite this Ganon Link not having the typical Gerudo tan skin coloring, this red skin could serve to be an exaggerated form of the tanner skin that the Gerudo typically have. All this begins to line things up quite nicely for this theory. That's all in the first 10 seconds or so of actual gameplay shown in the trailer, but now I want to pose my biggest piece of evidence for this theory. You never see this guy's face. And you see a much more traditionally geared up Link in the next few bits of gameplay. I think we may be looking at some kind of Ocarina style story here, switching between the past and the present. In the past, you play as the original hero who sealed away the darkness, got corrupted by it, and ended up as this dude, presumably Ganondorf. And in the present, you play as Link, trying to deal with the original hero resurfacing still corrupted by the calamity. Notice how all the bits with the longer-haired Link seem to have much more archaic-looking architecture, with more lush greens as part of the scenery, and Ganon Link wearing much more ancient-styled clothing as his default outfit throughout the trailer. I think it's safe to say that these two things take place in very different eras. I'm not here to hypothesize about the smaller details of the story or anything, but the final shot of Hyrule Castle at the very end of the trailer only shows one floating island, and that is the castle. Presumably, if these were taking place at the same time, you would see more floating islands in this shot. I bet Link will go below Hyrule through this cavern created by the castle floating and explore caves based off the original trailer and this shot from the new trailer. And Ganon Link, or whatever he ends up being named, will explore the skies in an ancient version of Hyrule. Throw in all the little shots that show some time trickery happening, and I think we have a pretty good idea of what is happening here in Breath of the Wild's much anticipated sequel. And as a final nail in the coffin, Nintendo did say that they have an official title ready for this game, but revealing it could be a spoiler in itself. If the main idea of this game just so happens to be switching between Ganon Link and Our Link, this trailer keeps it pretty vague. So maybe revealing the title of Breath of the Wild Dual Destinies might be a little too revealing for this stage of the game's pre-release. I realize how much of a stretch this might be, and to be honest, I'm kind of expecting this to be proven wrong by whenever the next trailer for this game comes out, and when that happens, feel free to come by and yell at me about how wrong I was. But I think it's worth thinking about. We probably have a few more months till we see another trailer for this game, but after all of this, I'm beginning to think that I might have just cracked the code for Breath of the Wild sequel. And if you want to crack the code on how to get me more YouTube success, why don't you subscribe to RVRocks and ring the bell, like this video, and comment your thoughts on this theory. Think that this guy isn't Ganondorf, but everything else lines up? Think that these guys being one and the same is a stretch? I do too, but that's the glory of theory crafting, right? Most of the time, these things just serve to be a more interesting lens to study your favorite pieces of media through, and not a definitive right answer for the lore or anything. Either way, let me know your thoughts either in the comments or on Twitter at RVRocks. But before you do any of that, I have been RVRocks, and thank you so much for watching. See ya!